Good afternoon, everyone, and I got an update here with our upcoming snowstorm. It's right now over Canada, which we can see here, and it's working across the upper plains, and that will continue to work into our region, moving down to the northeast, or rather southeast, that is, as we head throughout the rest of our day. So, a few things about this storm system before we jump into it is this storm system, most of them are Colorado lows, at least, those storm systems that come out of Colorado. They have a liquid to snow ratio about 10 to 1. So 10 inches of snow for 1 inch of liquid. Now, these Alberta Clippers, which come out of Canada, have a little bit cooler air, and cooler air makes those snowfall ratios higher. So we're looking at possibly about a 15 to a 20 to 1. So 20 inches of snow for about 1 inch of liquid. Granted, we're not going to see really anywhere close to an inch of liquid. So 20 inches is very well out of the question, nothing like that. But it is going to be these very big fat flakes that is going to be falling. And the one thing that can kind of cause these forecasts to fall apart is if we get wind, because wind shreds those really big flakes and causes them to just be small little needles. And when that happens, snowfall totals usually tend to be a little bit on the lower side, but we're not seeing a whole lot of wind with this system. Could be on the backside as the system's wrapping up, a little bit more wind, but for the majority of our heavy snow and kind of what we're expecting, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of wind. So these should be mostly these really big flakes, but also good news, it's going to be fairly easy to shovel, snow blow, whatever you do with it, but it's not going to be heavy, which is something that can be really annoying. And timing wise, what we're expecting here is going to be starting around 10 to 11, probably reaching parts of northwestern Minnesota here, and then it will slide into central Minnesota probably between 11 to midnight, and then reaching the Twin Cities between midnight to about 2 a.m. The heaviest snow will be probably from about when it starts, and it'll continue to get heavier throughout their morning hours till about 8 to 10 o'clock for the majority of central Minnesota here. The Twin Cities could see a little heavier snow to about 11, maybe even noon. But by noon, most of the storm system should actually be wrapping up. It's moving a little faster than initially expected, and the system will continue to maybe bring a few scattered snow showers across the majority of our region here for about probably the next couple hours after that. But by about 5 o'clock, things should be mostly done, so the evening commute shouldn't be as bad as the morning commute, but it could still be snowy depending how quick those snowplows get out there. So snowfall wise from the National Weather Service, this was just updated as of 11:55, so about an hour ago. And initially this morning they had the heaviest band of snow across parts of north central Minnesota. They have now shifted it farther down to the south, which is what we're seeing with more of these long-term models. They're predicting the entire time, and these shorter range models that only predict shorter range out have been shifting farther down to the south, which makes me, and I guess the National Weather Service as well, believe that that's the most likely track of this storm. So I'm expecting that heaviest band of snow, and I'll show you my crude estimate of what we're looking at. I made my own snowfall map, but I think that this is fairly accurate of what we should be seeing. And the NWS did say that right now they don't have any watches or warnings out, except for Grand Forks did put a couple watches, winter storm watches out up in northwestern Minnesota, and NWS Duluth did put some winter storm watches out also up in the Duluth area. The Twin Cities said they were holding off till this afternoon. They got a little better look at that exact track of the snowstorm to put out any winter storm watches or warnings or what it might be. I'm guessing that much of this area here is going to be put into a winter storm watch, if not a winter storm warning. I think that's looking very likely at this point, just due to the amount of snowfall that we're expecting. So we'll hop right into the models here. What we're looking at, this is the HRRR, which is a short-term model, which is the ones that I said were initially showing some that heavy snow up north, but we can see it has shifted south to where much of those other models we're looking at. So this shows about 6 to 8 inches of snow in the heaviest swath, fairly tight gradient on that southern side of the system, just due to some drier air down there. So if you're on the southern side of the system, near the Marshall area, down to Mankato, Albert Lee, even down towards Rochester, I think there'll be a tight snowfall gradient where you could go up about 20 miles and it could be a difference between a couple of inches. So that's what the HRRR is showing. Hop over to the NAM, which is another shorter to maybe medium range model. Goes about 84 hours out, but this one's also showing a very similar path. It shows almost 10 inches of snow in St. Cloud, which I think is quite unreasonable. I don't think anywhere in Minnesota will be seeing 10 inches. I think 8 inches might be around the max, unless we get some small features that cause really intense snowfall, which is very possible, and it does happen with systems which tends to overperform with them, that we could see that. But I think this is a little overdoing it, but it does still show that heavy swath of snow across the majority of central Minnesota. This is the European model. This has been fairly accurate over the last couple, or at least pretty consistent over the last couple of days, and usually for storms farther out, it's pretty accurate. Once it gets a little closer, it's not as accurate, but it's still one of the better models to look at snow. And once again, showing that heavy swath of about 6 to 7 inches of snow across the majority of central Minnesota for St. Cloud, and then just basically traveling up I-94. GFS model, once again, also shows basically the same story. Heavier swath of snow going across central Minnesota, about 4 to 6, maybe even up to 8 inches. So I think that we are pretty well locked in with this system. It's going to kind of shift around as it hits here. Once again, these models are not really ever fully accurate. There are little things that impact stuff that they will never pick up, which is why we can't just rely on these models. But for right now, that is what I'm looking at in terms of this system. I think that we have that very good shot of seeing a fair bit of snow here, and I think it will also lead to a fairly good look at getting a white Christmas. So here's my crude estimate of a snowfall map. I just made this. It's my first ever snowfall map that I've made. So I'm thinking, which lines up pretty well with the NWS here, that 1 to 3 inch range, and then there'll be that narrow band of snow between about 4 to 8 inches across the majority of central Minnesota. And I do think St. Cloud is going to be on that edge of seeing about 5 to possibly up to 8 inches of snow, depending if that heavy snow band does continue to show what the models are saying with it staying farther down to the south. So for right now, that's what we're expecting. Behind this system, it's going to be a little bit colder on Friday, maybe another shot of a brief brief clipper system for our day on Saturday. And then behind that, as we head into Christmas, well, it's probably a good thing we're getting this much snow, because we're going to see some pretty warm temps in those mid to even upper 30s. I don't think 40s quite is possible, but I think those mid to upper 30s is looking very likely right around that time of Christmas, which would possibly be melting majority of the snow. And I just got notifications on my phone that they did just put a winter storm warning out for Stearns County. So I will see here if this updated. I don't know if it will update just due to how fast it is. But yeah, so it looks like it didn't update quite yet. But I will put out a picture of where that winter storm warning is once it gets posted. But for now, the storm system is looking very likely to happen. And I guess since the winter storm warning did get posted, we can take a quick look at seeing what they are looking at. So the National Weather Service is saying somewhere between 5 to 7 inches of snow. So I think that we will likely be getting a fair amount of snow here, which obviously we've gotten to. So behind that, much warmer conditions for Christmas. Much of the snow will probably melt, but I think we will still have enough for that 1 inch of snow on Christmas Day to consider it a white Christmas. Otherwise, I might make another update tonight, depending if things really shift around a whole lot. Feel free to ask questions for totals, whatever. Send me pictures of snowfall totals. I'd love to get reports, see where we are across the state, snow-wise. And yeah, any questions, feel free to reach out. Please stay safe on the roads. Minnesota 511, fantastic tool and website to look at. If you're going to be driving, they are very good with telling how road conditions are. They got cameras, they got snowplow cameras. Port crashes, fantastic. So I recommend highly that you use them if you do have that ability to. Otherwise, stay safe out there, and I'll update as needed.